Kurt Barrows has a lot of insight. And, this documentary is about people being able to tell their truth or tell their version of the story. And
now you have to ask yourself, how did 50 come into the possession of Diddy's footage for Diddy's documentary about Diddy? This is crazy because he's making a document himself, but then he took that documentary. Apparently what happened was that Diddy did go to jail and then he couldn't pay the...
For a long time, Katt Williams was seen as just a loud, outspoken comedian who talked too much. People would laugh at his words, brush them off, and quickly move on. But everything changed when Katt Williams appeared on a Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe. The whole mood shifted.
Food to the poor, they was on the streets getting people off of drugs, so they knew Pac had that in him. So I definitely would say they was watching him.
Yeah, I mean, me hearing you break that down like that, you making some good points.
And not only that, Pac himself had this thing.
The laughing stopped, and people suddenly started paying attention. This time, it wasn't just a joke. His timing was perfect. The things Katt had been saying for years started matching up with real events happening around scene Diddy.
Pac himself had this thing. He had hatred for cops. Well, crooked cops, let's say that. You know what I mean? Because the same thing, you got to understand, a lot of his music, he was going against the cops. And off his, even personal, when we're around him, he just had a hatred for crooked cops. So one thing about Pac is that, but he used to always say, like, if it's a cop that really do his job and he's fair, we love him. But because he went through what he went through as a kid, you know what I mean? They used to have to, you know what I mean? They used to be in a building and then waking up and they got to put peanut butter all over the walls to hide the prints because the FBI is coming. They had to run to another house. So he grew up in that environment. You know what I mean? And then he got police brutality against him when he was crossing the street. And then he hear how they put a shotgun to his mother's stomach while she was pregnant. So if you hear this as a kid, you're going to naturally have a disdain or hatred towards the police. When he got older, he realized that...
So was a serious question about power, control, and industry that often hides the truth to protect itself. Then came 50 Cent. With the release of the documentary Shawn Combs, The Reckoning, the conversation completely exploded. The film brought out old patterns, timelines, and the footage that had been quietly circulating for years. But many viewers noticed something important. It wasn't just what was shown in the documentary, it was what was missing. Certain big names, important connections, and the key parts of stories seemed to be intentionally left out.
Well, on all honesty, brother, you would have to ask him that. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm looking at it like that, then I know, those mansions are heavily guarded, one. Two, he wasn't getting the love that he would get. I don't think he get love in LA. I don't know. He said he owned.
And suddenly, Katt Williams didn't sound crazy anymore. He sounded early. At first, the idea seemed simple. What if Shawn Combs wasn't acting alone? What if there were powerful people behind him, quietly protecting him from years? Katt Williams had hinted at something very specific. It wasn't about power. It about a number 7. 7 individuals in the industry who couldn't be touched or challenged. At the time, it sounded vague and hard to believe, but now people are going back, rewatching his words and trying to fill in the blanks. One name kept surfacing again and again: Snoop Dogg. For years, his connection to Shawn Combs never hidden. There were interviews, joint appearances, and shared space.
Let me just tell you something, man. The fans ain't give a damn about Cassie getting her ass whooping in that hallway. Let's keep it a buck. We had several times that we've seen professional athletes smack and beat up their girls on camera. Jay-Z got his ass whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange?
All of it well documented. It wasn't proof of anything, but it was enough to raise a serious question.
To embarrass their reputation and things that they've been known for. You understand? I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand. That's why a lot of those rappers, that's why a lot of those athletes, they not saying nothing and they quiet as a church mouse. Because now, they don't want to mess up their brand and they don't know what he's going to say. You ain't heard nothing from his biggest fan, Stevie J. He been quiet.
More importantly, people started wondering, why wasn't Snoop Dogg mentioned at all in the documentary? At that level, silence wouldn't feel accidental. It feels calculated. The another unexpected name popped up. Kevin Hart. Fans began to going back and rewatching the old clips, early performances and industry connections. Because in this world, proximity matters. The closer someone is to power, the harder it becomes to separate truth from silence.
Moni Love was there. Cousin Sonny was there. Imra was outside smoking a blunt, so she missed the infamous picture with all of us together with Katt. And me and him sitting next to each other, two hats on, two cats in the hat.
Yeah.
And he taught me so much in 9 months. Walking away was hard, but it was when the Illuminati.
And then there is a Mase. Maybe the quietest name in all of this. His history with Shawn Combs is well documented, contracts, fallouts, and the year of distance. So when all the allegations started to coming out, many people expected to Mase speak up. But he stayed completely silent. And sometimes silence says more than
Walking
words
away was
ever
hard.
could.
But it was when the Illuminati first started coming after him. And I'll never forget the day when they breached the house. And I left. You know, back in that moment, Katt was still wearing Kevlar to bed. To bed. I would get in bed with him at night and he would have Kevlar on. In bed.
The deeper you look, the cleaner the pattern becomes. This isn't just about a one person, it's about the whole system. A structure where influence decided to who gets seen, and visibility decides who gets held accountable.
Damn near everybody is stepping down. From fire chiefs to police chief to commissioner of this, commissioner of that, the board of education and everything. I'm like, yo, damn, all of them was on Diddy Island? I don't even know. But what I'm saying is, allegedly, all these people are stepping down because they don't want to lose their pension. They don't want to be brought up in this whole Diddy mess. And they preparing. It appears to me that they preparing. If anything come out, that they could be already out and it won't be a big to do. They're already someplace else.
Because when someone gets too big, too connected, too risky, it doesn't get exposed. It gets edited.
They're already someplace else. They already living a whole different lifestyle. So if their name came up, it won't be real big, great news because they're not in those positions anymore. That's what it appeared to me. They was getting out those positions so that it won't be a whole media race if their name come up in any of that stuff. They'd be like, Katt Williams, oh, the former CEO of, you know what I'm saying? It'll go away. But if he was still working there, then it'll be a big news and a big to-do.
50 Cent says there are over 100 hours of footage that never made into the documentary. 100 hours. And that raises the real question. Not what was shown, but what was left out. Because according to Katt Williams, the truth wasn't always get denied. Sometimes it just get controlled.